Hey everyone, and welcome to 1.21 Jigowatts. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and this is our weekly movie news show. We of course talk about all the news that comes out. Well, I say all. I really should say a curated selection of news that is of interest, because otherwise we'd be here all night. We also talk about some of the trailers that came out this week, pick our favourite of those, talk about what I've been watching this week that wasn't for review purposes, if there was any, that is, because I know I don't have any this week, but Connor might. So that's a different section we have, and we go through all this stuff, and that's about it. That's the movie news show. It tends to be a bit of a riot, and we talk about all various random things.
I mean, you say riot, I say shambles. You know, take your pick.
Same thing, basically.
It kind of is.
So, as per usual, we will start off with the box office discussion for the past weekend domestically, and we made predictions last week, of course, and we'll see how they shape up. We had, I guessed Rampage at 37 million, you guessed it at 32 million for its opening weekend. Its actual amount, it was number one, although the funny thing is there was a time over the weekend where it maybe wasn't going to be number one. There was a chance
that low.
There was a chance that Quiet Place might have taken it. The actual amount was 35.7 million.
You just about win that one, don't you?
Not even just about, I do. I definitely do.
I know, but I'm softening the blow for myself.
Okay, alright. So, I mean, I don't know if that's disaster territory, if that's just kind of okay for what they expect.
It kind of feels mediocre, but not... it's not breaking the bank or anything, but it's fine.
The bizarre thing is, though, is that it's doing really well internationally. It's made 75% of its intake internationally. It's 187 million worldwide, which seems fine because it's actually got a budget of 120 million, which I know sounds like a lot, but these days that's actually kind of closer to the middle of the budget territory. So
that international figure is pretty respectable for for what it is.
So that's Rampage. Then what did we guess? We guessed The Quiet Place at number 2. And I guessed 30 million, you guessed 23 million. The amount was 32.9 million. So really strong hold. Really strong hold.
That's a much stronger hold than I expected.
Really, really good. 167 million worldwide now, which on a $17 million budget is absolutely great.
Raking it.
So expect your sequels, people, because they're happening. Number 3, of course, we also made prediction for Truth or Dare, which did come in at number 3. I guessed 15 million, you guessed 18 million. You can take this one because it was 18.6 million. So
it's pretty close.
So no, and it was Friday the 13th when it came out. So horror did quite well over the weekend. I mean, number 2 and 3, and obviously the Hold on a Quiet Place was really good. So cannot complain with that. I don't think they can.
I guess Quiet Place is really benefiting from that, positive word of mouth.
Oh, absolutely, it absolutely is. All the ads and trailers you see now are all the quotes from the reviews. Unmissable, masterpiece, work of art is blah blah blah.
It basically means Krasinski can do what he wants next.
Yeah. But within a certain budget, I think he has a bit of carte blanche now.
Yeah.
So number 4 is Ready Player One with 11.5 million. What's that done worldwide now, I wonder? That has now made 485 million worldwide, so that's doing okay overall. Again, it's the international that's doing that, though. Domestically, it's not that hot. Blockers number 5 with 10.7 million. Number 6 is Black Panther with 5.7 million. What's that at now? Because that's still going strong. That is at 1,316 million.
Worth noting, My Sinner has put up a bunch of extra showings this week.
Oh, because Infinity War's coming.
Yeah. Well, that's it was down to like one showing at 10:30, 11 a.m. and that was it. But now it's got the 2 p.m, the 6 p.m, and
it's got a screen to itself all day again, basically.
Yeah. It's like, okay, it's they know people are going to come and rewatch it just because. Oh, hey, Infinity War's out.
So no, that's
shit. Are we doing predictions for Infinity War today?
No.
That next week.
It's next week.
Oh, thank God, I was not prepared.
What do you mean prepare? You're not supposed to be checking anything anyway.
Not to check, prepared to think. I hadn't given it any thought.
Yeah, because I totally give it thought before we start recording. What my predictions are going to be.
I might do with one like this.
Anyway, number 7 is Isle of Dogs with 5.4 million. Number 8 is I Can Only Imagine with 4.1 million. Number 9 is Tyler Perry's Acrimony with 3.6 million. And number 10 is Chappaquiddick with 3 million. So that's your top 10 for last weekend. I'm just going to double check. Number 14 is Pacific Rim Uprising with 1.4 million. I just want to see what that is worldwide now. 281. It's starting to feel like it's going to squeeze to its 300.
It's probably not going to get to 300, but it might be just about maybe close enough that they'll do it. I don't know.
I don't know. But I think I basically forced that one to happen anyway. Maybe he'll have enough charm and pull to force the next one.
He is very charming, isn't he?
But that's the box office. There's actually nothing to really make predictions about this week. It's all pretty small fish.
Because no one wants to be out the week before Infinity War.
Yeah, you got Super Troopers 2 is basically the big thing.
Which I am seeing people really care about this movie, apparently.
I've never seen the original. I have no attachment to it.
We got to the trailer and I was like, I don't know what the hell this is. I don't care. But this week on Twitter and Facebook, I'm seeing everyone going on about it. I'm like,
it's got a fan base. There's people who grew up with it who absolutely love it, but I never did, so it's just a complete nothing to me. So yeah, no predictions this week. I don't think. I don't necessarily feel the need to guess on weeks 3 and 4 of things.
Take a week off for the big one next time.
Yeah, we can prep ourselves mentally for the big predictions next time. So that does take us on to news. Obviously, we always go into the comic book movie news first after the box office. And we do have a few things this week. Out of nowhere things as well, might I add, in most cases.
Yeah, because the DC news cycle never stops.
So, first up, Steven Spielberg. Yeah, Steven Spielberg, that guy. That dude.
That Steven Spielberg.
He is actually working on producing a movie for DC and Warner Brothers, Blackhawk, with the potential to direct it under his Amblin banner. So, Blackhawk was first published by Quality Comics and later by DC, and was created by Chuck Cudera, with input by Bob Powell and Will Eisner. In the series, the Blackhawks are a small team of World War II ace pilots who are led by an enigmatic leader, Blackhawk. In the comic book, they operate out of a hidden base known as Blackhawk Island and battle Axis forces, but also foes such as King Condor, Killer Shark, a line of femme fatales. During the height of the comic's popularity, it outsold every other comic book but Superman. So this was a big deal at one point. Not so much in recent years. It's more of a thing of the past now.
They give it a try every so often.
You get your episode of the animated series that has the Blackhawk appearance, but it'll be a one episode thing, and then we'll forget about them again. It depended on the focus of what this movie could be. If they go all out and give us like Dinosaur Island and have like the big, more pulpier sci-fi elements that sort of sneak into it, that could be really fun. If they literally just have Steven Spielberg do a Saving Private Ryan style war movie, but it just happens to be the Blackhawks in their uniforms, that will
less interested in that. Yeah.
I'll be super, out of it for that movie. Can't deny this is surprising though. I mean, it does add to the joke that DC are just announcing anything and everything they possibly can.
Yeah, this one kind of gets a pass by not being part of that line, not being part of that side of things. I think this is coming from a different department.
Possibly, but at the same time, I feel like they'd probably want to work on a little Wonder Woman connection in there somewhere.
Yeah, probably. Why not? Why wouldn't you?
I could see it. Yeah, apparently Spielberg wanted to do this in the 80s. Apparently in the 80s they brought the comic back because Spielberg was interested in doing the movie, so they were trying to raise its profile. This was Marv Wolfman who was saying this, and I think it was an interview, or was it Twitter over the week, I don't know. But he was saying this, and yeah, apparently this has been something that he's always wanted to do. We know that he's not doing it next because he's doing Indy 5 next, and then he's supposed to be doing a West Side Story remake after that. So
yeah, so one of these is getting pushed.
Yeah, I mean it's not Indy 5. Indy 5's set to go.
Indy 5's definitely next, but the West Side Story could be, that could just not happen. It could get pushed.
Yeah, it's early enough where that could just be disregarded. But that's also a passion project, so who knows what they're doing. And it could also be that this is just he ends up not directing this. He produces it, but he doesn't direct it.
But if you're saying, he wanted to make a movie in the 80s, this, this feels like, okay, he cares enough about this.
I feel like the Warner Brothers DC news, they're always just like too excited and they want to get their news out there, so to try and build some interest and excitement for the movies in general. And I think with this one especially, it's like, Spielberg's attached to this, quickly go and announce it, do it now.
It's the same problem gaming had over the first half of this decade, where they'd announce something and then there'd be nothing for like three years, and you'd be like, well, I don't really care anymore. You've just shown me a bunch of trailers, and by the time it comes out, you're over it.
Yeah, I think that's a little bit different because you keep seeing it over and over again, whereas with this, we will legitimately just hear nothing, probably, for a long time. And then, it all just comes around, because even if you're sick of the news cycle, once you see a trailer for the first time, and if it looks cool, it's like, well, you know what, it doesn't really matter.
It is. I just mean in the sense that, they announce it way too early, and then it's just, I just stop caring, because there's just so much so early that it doesn't feel real, any of it.
Stuff like E3's actually spoiled me a little bit. I actually think movies could do with like conferences where they surprise us with trailers without announcing stuff first. But movie news cycles so much the thing where, no, we hear about it as soon as they've signed contracts, then we hear about them casting, then we hear about them, they start shooting this date, they start doing this. How nice would it be to get to the trailer, never, I mean obviously sometimes it happens by accident, but in terms of a big movie, imagine them debuting a trailer, not knowing what it is, and holy shit, it's a Blackhawks movie.
Right. Even the closest to that feeling would be the latest Cloverfield movie.
Yeah, that's the closest we've really gotten to it.
And even that, we knew there was a Cloverfield movie coming.
Because I'm thinking, like, when it comes to E3, like, you'll have that section of the trailer where everyone's guessing, what is this? Is this a sequel to this? Is it this thing? Is it that thing? You don't know until a character shows up, or maybe the name comes up at the end, and it's, oh shit, it's this thing.
Right, but because here you've clicked on it on YouTube, you know exactly what it is.
We don't have that with movies. It's a shame. But hey, so moving on, sticking with DC and their ever revolving door of news cycle. Cathy Yan has been hired to direct. Now, this article that I got, I think, from Deadline was very specific with their wording. They actually just say it's an untitled sequel. It's multiple female characters, and that Harley Quinn's going to be in it. Now, I saw this reported in a multiple of different ways. This is a Birds of Prey movie. Multiple places called it Birds of Prey, and then there was other places that said it's the next Harley Quinn movie that is based on a Birds of Prey comic. I'll get to that, my complaint with that in a minute. So there's very mixed reports as to exactly what this is. The only thing that seems to be consistent across the board is that Cathy Yan has been hired for it, to direct it, and it's got Harley Quinn in it, and it's one of two Birds of Prey projects potentially in the works. And the only thing they both have in common, I believe, is Batgirl and Harley Quinn, which is bizarre to me that there's a Birds of Prey script, whether it's this one or the other one, that doesn't have Black Canary in it in some capacity, is baffling.
Yeah, and it's weird to me that they're going this route instead of the Gotham City Sirens that we did hear about at one point was the plan for the next step for Harley.
But that's the thing, it kind of sounds like this is going to be this weird mix of it. It sounds like it's going to be like half a Birds of Prey, half a Sirens.
Yeah, it does. This sounds like it's taken that place, right, of the Sirens movie that we were going to get.
The one interesting, this is the script that's written by the same person who's just been hired to write the Batgirl script. And what we're hearing this week is that they want to do the thing where, like, they introduced Black Panther in Civil War, and then he got his movie. They kind of want to do that with Batgirl, where they have the Birds of Prey movie. Harley's there as the star because she has the audience already, but it introduces Batgirl, and then she gets her own movie afterwards. That said, Batgirl should still very much be the central character in the Birds of Prey movie, so I'm hoping that doesn't mean that it's going to be this weird
Harley Quinn and friends.
Yeah, like, unless you, like, focus from Harley's point of view and then the Birds of Prey show up to fight her and then eventually team up with her, maybe, but
that's just weird. I don't understand what this is. And
well, this is the thing. This is my whole thing. It's a Harley Quinn movie based on a Birds of Prey comic. How many Birds of Prey stories has Harley Quinn been in?
Probably as a villain a handful of times.
If that, right? Guest starred a couple of times, but
oh, that's what I mean. Harley's only existed for what, 20 years?
Yeah. Well, the Birds of Prey is even younger than that.
Right, exactly. But that's my point. Is even those characters have been around for a lot longer. Didn't really they could only have even interacted with her in the last like 20 years.
Because Birds of Prey is 96, 97 was when that started.
Right. Yeah. So, but I mean, those characters were around and interacted before they would have interacted with Harley Quinn.
Sure.
That's my point. So sometimes they'll say, "Oh, it's Birds of Prey," where they just mean, "Oh, it's those characters," even if it's not specifically that story.
I don't know. That's not my point, though. My point is that it's not actually based on a story from the Birds of Prey comics. That is not my point at all. My point is that Harley Quinn is not known for being associated in any way with the Birds of Prey.
Not yet.
She,
I say that in the sense of you can't get a version of the Suicide Squad now without Harley Quinn. If this happens, you won't get a version of the Birds of Prey without Harley Quinn.
which will actively annoy me.
No, I'm with you.
And honestly, I think it's a Harley Quinn movie based on a Birds of Prey story is actually disrespectful to the other Birds of Prey characters, because Batgirl and Black Canary, or I mean, obviously traditionally it was Oracle, but it's going to be Batgirl in this movie, right? Because that's just what they're going to do.
That's fine.
That's the Birds of Prey, and then if you've got a third one, it's Huntress. But Birds of Prey to begin with was Barbara Gordon and Dinah Lance. That was the Birds of Prey.
Yes.
So this annoys me. This annoys me because it's like, oh well, Harley doesn't have a lot of great material to use for a movie, so we'll just start Frankensteining things out of other properties.
Which
Possibly
makes no sense given how much content of Harley there is out there.
possibly doing a disservice to those other characters in the process. Maybe not. Maybe this is just them using Harley Quinn as the headline because that's the popular one. Maybe the movie itself, the script itself that's been written, might actually be a lot more balanced and a lot more thoughtful towards everything.
It's possible.
This could just be the news cycle wanting to grab the headlines by saying, oh, it's Harley Quinn's next movie. Fine. If that's the case, then fine. Then, and in the future, we could all just be happy that it's fine. But, it's worth mentioning that Kathy Yan, who's been hired for this, she's only really had one indie movie called Dead Pigs that was notable before this. This is relatively speaking an up and coming kind of like, this is not someone who's done blockbusters before. This is not someone who's done a lot of big stuff before. This is fresh talent who's doing this, which I think is interesting. Apparently, her pitch to do a Birds of Prey movie was well received. So
it's funny because
it's encouraging.
Those stories can go either way, right? They've only handled a really small budget, then you throw them a big one.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't think this has to be a huge budget though. Really.
It doesn't have to be, but I feel like it'll end up being one anyway.
No, comparatively speaking, I don't think it will be.
Okay, fair enough.
Compare to your $200 to $250 million Justice League and Avenger movies. This will maybe be $100 million.
Oh yeah, maybe. I still assume maybe more like 130, 140.
You're just arguing that point now, so you've got something to argue at this point.
No, I genuinely that's what I assume is the what I would expect from them to throw at this DC stuff now, just because they've got to make it stick. If they're going to do it, they're going to go big.
What could possibly necessitate that much of a budget in this, though?
I don't know. Margot Robbie can probably negotiate whatever the hell she wants at this point.
Yeah, but her payment's not included in that budget.
I know. I'm just saying. I just want to point this out that it's going to be expensive, and she can just do whatever she wants.
Yeah, but her payment's not part of the budget we're talking about.
I know. I'm just saying.
Look, your argument's bullshit. It means nothing.
It still should count.
What?
It should count as part of it.
It's not though. It's above the line. There's above the line and below the line. The actors' payments are.
I know, but when it gets so much, it should count.
You're arguing based on nothing here. Look,
I am.
Theoretically, this could actually be a relatively speaking low-budget superhero movie because it's all people who are fighting in hand-to-hand combat. Now that can still rack up a bit of a price, but you're not dealing with flying Supermen and Wonder Woman and
we hope.
And probably not at the very least. That said, I mean, whatever villain they could pick a fantastical villain, but there's potential for this to be more of a medium budget superhero. And honestly, I think after the underperformance of Justice League, I think the smarter thing for them to do is to build up their brand again with smaller budgeted movies that just wins people back over. It's not as much of a risk per film. Do it that way.
No, it's definitely smarter.
So I think that's a smart thing to do. But I wouldn't say I'm optimistic. I like the hiring of someone based on their pitch because they really care about it. The fact that they've got the same screenwriter who's also working on the Batgirl now, I like that connectivity. That said, I mean, I'm not, like... we're at a point with these DC movies now where they're announcing so much. Like, every week there's another goddamn movie.
I mean, even in this story here, this is one of two potential versions of this movie.
Yeah. So things are definitely not set in stone. Who knows where we'll actually end up going. But hey, I certainly would not oppose to a Birds of Prey movie if that's what we're going to get as one of the... Because I actually racked them up. There's like 24 announced. I've been jokingly saying there's about 30 movies announced. I actually racked them all up and it was about 24.
Really, 24?
Yeah, 24.
Is that including the ones we've had in the last couple of years, or is that just
No, that's just and I don't even
is that from Aquaman onwards?
Not even counting that. I think that wasn't counting Aquaman, Wonder Woman 2 or Shazam, because they're all definitely a thing.
They're real.
Yeah, they're real, yes. They're shooting, have been shot, or in case of Wonder Woman 2, it's pretty confident that it's happening. Cause,
that one's going to happen, because, hey, people liked Wonder Woman. That made money.
Alright, let's move on. Sticking with DC, actually, and although this is definitely separate, this is not mainline DC, this is a Vertigo book we're talking about, and it's also very different and specific. So, Blumhouse Productions, of all places, branching out from the horror genre, are working with John Ridley, who is going to write, direct, and produce. John Ridley, of course, wrote 12 Years a Slave. He's currently working on The Secret History of the DCU, which is a comic book talking about marginalised people inside the DC universe. But he also wrote this comic book, which this is based on, funnily enough, for Vertigo, which was a series, a mini-series, and then there was a sequel graphic novel. And it's called The American Way. That's specifically, the comic book series was called The American Way, Those Above and Those Below. It was published as a 6-issue monthly series last year by DC. Ridley wrote wrote a story illustrated by George Jeanty. It was followed up by their acclaimed 2007 graphic novel. Sorry, it was the follow-up to... I was like, yeah, how did 2007 have to follow up to the thing from last year? That made no sense. Anyway, so they did this comic. The original series dealt with the creation of a team of 60 superheroes called the Civil Defense Corps. And it was each with special powers, but also a special ethnic makeup designed to make segments of the American population feel safe and represented. There is also a group of supervillains pitted against the heroes, but the whole thing is partly a contrivance to pacify an American public growing increasingly inflamed with the times. The movie will be focused in 1972 and pick up that original story a decade later. Ridley said that the inspiration for this series was Ridley's reading of LBJ's desire to add a black astronaut to the space program. Jason Fisher is added to the superhero roster as the New American, a black man subjected to a genetic manipulation to give him super strength but a limited pain threshold. His presence creates a turmoil with the superhero crew, emblematic of the times, and when the government creates a new superhero called Hellbent to mask this strife, the superhero crew is devastated by the results. And then there's actually a whole lot of paragraph describing this. What's interesting to me is it sounds like it's not adapting the comic or the graphic novel. It sounds like it's a continuation.
It's a sequel,
yeah. And I'm sure it'll work on its own. But in a sort of like Watchmen-esque, like, oh, this happened before with the Minutemen, and now the Watchmen are here. But except in this case, that was actually a comic book first, and then this is 10 years later, here's stuff happening. Because here's the next part. 10 years after the CDC, which is the Civil Defense Corps, was torn apart by racism, infighting and murder, and exposed as a propaganda sham, the surviving members are heading in different directions. Missy Devereaux, aka Ollie Miss, is transitioning from the First Lady of Mississippi into a candidate for governor and a defender of vanishing and a hateful way of life. Amber Eaton, formerly known as Amber Waves, I like that name, is a domestic terrorist using her powers to infiltrate and destroy the country's centres of power. Fisher's remained a crime fighter, conflicted with being a propaganda prop to sustain a system rigged against the black population of America. He tries to become a champion of the disenfranchised people of inner city Baltimore, who are wary that he is a tool of the heavy-handed police force.
Man, that was quite the paragraph.
That was a lot of describing there. But I think the reason why it's so meaty is because it's like here's the premise originally, and here's what it's going to do in the movie that's kind of set a little bit later. So that's why I'm saying it reminds me a little bit of Watchmen in the sense that they're all kind of split up doing their own different things, and but obviously it's going to be very much focus on the racial side of things, and the idea that you've got this black superhero and people aren't sure if they can trust him. Are you part of the system? Are you this? It feels like it's going to be thick with social commentary. Would be my guess.
I agree. Sounds good.
It does sound good.
The idea of being a sequel kind of sounds like what Dark Tower was supposed to be. I don't know if you recall this.
Oh yeah, but it wasn't. It was kind of both a sequel and an adaptation.
Yeah, that was just weird, and it obviously didn't work. But I don't think we see it very often. The idea of, okay, let's take something, not just straight adapt it, but let's continue that story just in a different medium.
And the thing is here is that this has just been a couple of stories, and then this will be the third thing. So, and it's all been by the same person. So it sounds very, it doesn't sound like it's going to be bogged down. It's like, oh, this is a history that exists, but it's not going to necessarily be like. And this is the fun thing about this is that, but if this does come out, and the build up to it, I probably will read it because I know it's a continuation. It's not just an adaptation.
Just thinking about things that are doing this lately. Ironically, the other one that comes to mind is the Chucky one. Because that's getting the TV show that's kind of the sequel, right, to the movies.
Oh, sure. For Ash vs. Evil Dead, kind of, is a sequel.
Yeah. It's something that we often see. I think we see it more often with movies into TV. Because they expect more people to see the movie and then transition downwards, essentially.
Or occasionally you get a movie that finishes a show off. Like Serenity for Firefly. Yeah. From Joss Whedon, the creator of the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Because it's cheaper than giving him a full season.
What are you talking about? It was a different company.
I know, but they could have given him a season.
No, they couldn't. They weren't allowed to. Fox still had the TV rights.
I know. I'm just saying.
Everything you're arguing tonight is absolute bollocks, and I'm shooting them all down nice and easy.
All right, well, find me the budgets. Don't tell me you know the budget off the top of your head, please.
I don't know. I think it was like 60, 70 million for Serenity.
Yeah. TV show probably cost about that.
Now for sure it does. I don't know if a season would have back then.
Yeah.
Not that was a choice because they didn't have the rights to do a TV show.
I know that, but I'm just digging points in, and you're just not letting anything slide tonight.
Because you're full of shite. Calls it like a sees it. So yeah, no, it sounds. I like the sound of this. I think all of it sounds interesting, and unique, and I didn't really know it existed before this story broke, and it all sounds kind of good. So.
No, I vaguely remember it being published, but I didn't read it at the time, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think it was because I hadn't. I think I was aware that it was okay. There was a graphic novel before that I hadn't read, so
because
I didn't want to jump in.
Because it's like directly from the same writer of the books, and I don't know if this is directorial debut. I mean, this is the first I've heard of him directing, but and because it's like Blumhouse that are producing it. Pardon me. I feel like it's more of a surefire thing to actually happen. It doesn't feel like vaporware like a lot of the other DC announcements do.
Yeah, Blumhouse are reliable enough.
Because it's not really announced as a DC. It happens to be based on a Vertigo book, which is part of DC, but it's not necessarily a DC movie.
No, I believe with the Vertigo stuff, that he owns all the rights to it still, which is why you can take it to Blumhouse and not do it through Warner.
Yeah, it might still be through Warner. Warner might still be distributing it.
They might be, but there's no necessity for them to be. But I'm just looking. No, he's directed some stuff, a bunch of TV stuff in the past. It seems.
Okay, all right. So he's got some experience then. That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll move on. Next up, still in the comic book world here. So there's again DC Comics, but again it's not really DC Comics in the sense that it just happens to be something they own. Whalestorm, limited series back from 2007 called The Highwaymen. It's in development as a movie at New Line Cinema, which of course is part of Warner Brothers. Which is funny because I often see New Line as being the Vertigo to Warner Brothers as they are to DC, if that makes sense.
Is Shazam still going through New Line? I know it was for a while.
It was for a bit. I don't know if it is still. It might be.
That was definitely when back when The Rock was attached to be Black Adam.
Because I get the feeling that Shazam actually is part of the line now, even if it is still New Line.
Yeah, no,
it doesn't feel like it's separate anymore, but it may still be New Line technically, just because they were the ones that were developing it in the first place. But anyway, so honestly, the story for this did not give me a description of what it was, so I actually had to go look up what it was, and there was no Wikipedia page, annoyingly. So I had to just track down the description of issue 1. That's what we've got here to tell you what this is about. So this is the description of issue 1 of the comic book, which was a 6-issue mini, and that's all it ever was. Which is actually kind of funny to me that it's just a 6-issue mini that's getting turned into a movie from, like, 11 years ago.
The prime thing to be adapted, in theory.
In theory, but typically it's the stuff that's bigger that gets the attention that turns into something. But so 2 men, one drives, the other shoots. In their prime, they were the highwaymen, a special breed of couriers capable of ferrying anything, anywhere, anytime. But that was long ago. Now, Abel Speed Monroe and Alistair McQueen are... I love how McQueen. I bet that's based on Steve McQueen.
Certainly.
That's a choice. They're a little worse for the wear. Almost obsolete, until they are called out of retirement and must cross the river of bad blood between them to deliver some very dangerous cargo for a dead president. If only they knew what it was and why everyone else wants to kill them for it. This sounds like a potentially really fun action movie.
It does. It's a bit of a chase, a bit of a heist.
It sounds like it's going to be, like, I mean, I don't know how long the trip will be, but it sounds like, we're going to do one all-night chase, or maybe like 3 days back-to-back, just one chase across the country, as all these different assassins are trying to take them out because they've got this mystery thing in their trunk.
That's definitely what it feels like. This feels prime for a movie.
Yeah.
I'm down for this.
So yeah, I never knew it existed, but I'm in for it. The description alone is kind of interesting, so cool. So that takes us on to general news. We're out of the comic book realm into the general stuff. First up, Guillermo del Toro has signed a multi-year exclusive deal with DreamWorks Animation to write, produce and direct animated family films for the studio. The first project will be announced in the upcoming months. The only thing
just because he's signed a contract doesn't mean it's going to happen.
The only thing I want to say about this is that I wonder what penalties they put in the contract for him not actually doing anything, because he's notorious for never actually finishing things.
But wasn't he involved in one of the animated shows on Netflix? I feel like he produced, at some level at least. I feel like his name was slapped around. I want to say Troll Hunters, something like
that. Sounds vaguely right, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's got a background, at least, in it.
It's just funny, though. It's multi-year exclusive deal, I assume it at least means a couple of projects.
It's funny. Multi-year, to me, with Del Toro, means one thing.
But the Del Toro, sure, that should mean at least a couple things with most people.
It should, but not with Del Toro.
But it's weird to me that he's going to be focusing on animation for a few years, unless he can sort of do this on the side along with whatever he's doing next, live-action-wise.
Could be.
But hey, I thought it was worth mentioning. Next up, Universal Pictures has titled the third How to Train Your Dragon movie. It's not called How to Train Your Dragon 3, even though the second one's just called How to Train Your Dragon 2. They've switched. They've switched to the subtitle system.
I hate this. I hate the inconsistency.
It's called How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World.
That's cool. I'm going to watch it regardless.
Yeah, the first 2 are fantastic. Two is like one of the best like CG animated movies there is.
I prefer the first one personally.
Oh, you're bizarre. But regardless, they're both fantastic. So it's coming out March 1st, 2019. So
that's too long.
The recent synopsis they put out for us is: as Hiccup fulfills his dream of creating a peaceful dragon utopia, toothless discovery of an untamed, elusive mate draws the Night Fury away. When danger mounts at home and Hiccup's reign as village chief is tested, both Dragon and Rider must make impossible decisions to save their kind. So, there you go. That's How to Train Your Dragon 3 coming in March. Next up, we got some casting for the next Terminator movie. Obviously, we had the delay for it a week or two ago. But we've found her our actual Terminator, apparently. Gabriel Lynn has been cast, who we know as Ghost Rider from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's what we know him from. But yeah, so that's it. It's that simple.
Yeah, he's alright. I don't think he's particularly amazing, but I've got nothing against him.
And then what's interesting to me is that this sounds more like a T-1000S Terminator, because he's not like a big bulky, Arnold dude. He's not a big bodybuilder.
No, he is not.
He's definitely more of a. I mean, he's fit, but he's a sleek kind of guy.
He is. He's got a presence to him. Don't get me wrong, but he's not huge.
Yeah, so I can see him being more of the the silent and stealthy Terminator. He has more of that vibe going for him. So I'm curious to see if it's a new model or if it's just a different look to a T-1000 or if it's, you know...
Yeah. And this is because obviously his portrayal as Ghost Rider is very Terminator-esque. You know, he just walks forward and stalks. You know, that's kind of there already.
Oh sure, but his head's all CG when he's doing that.
It is.
Yeah, but no, he's finding that show, so this is not a bad thing. Obviously, I'm still completely just I'm going to keep pessimistic about this because every other Terminator sequel after 2 has been mediocre to outright garbage. So
yeah, can't argue with that.
So
I didn't even see the last one. I just like reminding you of that because the fact that you had to sit through it and I didn't makes me feel better.
You've had to sit through the Lord of the Rings movies way more than I have, so joke's on you.
That's fine. It's a pleasure. I would sit through them right this second if I could.
Therapy. All right, next up. Warner Brothers has set a couple of release dates. The first one is for Super Intelligence, which is a Melissa McCarthy movie. That henceforth we don't give a shit.
Yeah, I don't know if you just saw my face drop there. It's like Super Intelligence. Okay, what's this? Never mind.
Ben Falcone is directing it. Written by the boss writer Steve Mallory, or Mallory, sorry. Obviously, I never saw The Boss because it was a Melissa McCarthy movie. So. Yeah. Henceforth, I'm consistent in my opinions. Carl Peters, played by McCarthy, a former corporate executive whose unfulfilled life is turned upside down when she is selected for observation by the world's first ever superintelligence. Yep, pass. Bit more interesting. The studio has also set a date for Michael B. Jordan's film. It's a legal drama called Just Mercy. They're going to put it out on MLK weekend, January 17th, 2020. Directed by Daniel Cretton. It is a film adaptation of Equal Justice Initiative founder Brian Stevenson's 2014 memoir on his first case, Walter McMillan, a young black man sentenced to death for a crime he did not commit. Despite his airtight alibi, McMillan was convicted and spent 6 years on death row before being exonerated. I see Oscar potential. I see Michael B. Jordan putting in a harrowing performance as this guy on death row. I see lots of big actor potential. Even though I'm not typically someone who's into legal dramas per se, I feel that this is more... This has more of a thing going for it because it's more of a...
No, I agree. I think it's interesting. I understand why they're putting out when they are, but if they're going after the awards stuff, weird time of year.
Yeah. That's true. It's late if you're going for that, but I guess they just see it doing better commercially, perhaps that weekend.
Oh yeah, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, which maybe just as a sign that Warner Bros. Cares more about the money than do the awards. And who knows? Get Out came out in like February and then ended up winning an award the following year. So
it happens. It's just rare.
It is rare. But hey, so that takes us on to. Masters of the Universe, the He-Man movie that's in the works at Sony.
Oh yeah, that's a thing.
And they've hired Aaron and Adam Nee, a pair of brothers, to direct it, who are rising stars after their 2015 indie thriller Band of Robbers, which I am not familiar with. Be curious to check it out and see if it's like, not that I care about He-Man, but if it's the sort of thing that says, oh, they could make a fun, goofy movie that has that charm. Because I feel like He-Man has to have a bit of tongue-in-cheek to it, right?
I would hope so.
Can't take He-Man seriously. But it'll be based on the Mattel toy line, which spawned a successful animated TV series, 1983 to 1985, as well as the 1987 film starring Dolph Lundgren, the legend that he is. I just like the word Skeletor, because he's the villain. Skeletor's a cool word.
It is. Honestly, the full extent of my experience watching anything He-Man related comes from Jim Sterling playing the Skeleton Warriors clip.
Every time he censors a certain word, yes.
Yeah. That is my full extent of watching He-Man.
Nope. That's pretty much the same for me. I never watched He-Man as a kid. Never appealed to me. I'm not into fantasy, so a dude walking around in a loincloth with a sword was just never something I appealed to.
I get that. I'm into fantasy, but as we've discussed on various reviews, the huge action hero doesn't really do much for me. So, this turned me off from that angle.
So next up, Sophia Lillis, who played Beverly Marsh in It. or I'll just say Stephen King's It to make it clear that I'm saying that.
Yeah.
So she's actually going to be in another movie. She's been in talks to star in Nancy Drew and the Hidden Staircase, which is obviously Nancy Drew is a famous book series about the young girl detective. So I mean, obviously she's now the girl around that age that you might cast in something like this. So why not? The Hidden Staircase, initially released in 1930, is the second book in the Nancy Drew series, written by Mildred Ritt Benson, though it was under the pseudonym of Caroline Keene. That makes me laugh, actually. You've not watched Trial and Error yet, but there's a whole joke in that about someone whose name is Carol Ann Keene, but she says it so fast that you can't tell if it's like 3 words or 2. Is it Carol Ann Keene
or Caroline?
Or Caroline Keene?
Okay.
There's a whole joke, but our pseudonym there just made me think of that. Anyway, so there was a film adaptation of the book in 1939. So long time ago. They've waited a while. They've let the dust settle.
This is a respectable time for a reboot.
Yeah. You wait all this time. You go for
none of this Spider-Man 3 years nonsense.
So am I to assume that the second book's better than the first book, and that's why they got? I mean, I assume it's not got like a big story that runs through them. It's probably all standalone things.
I assume it's just more defined by the second book.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I have heard of the title. It does like I couldn't have told you what it was, but the Hidden Staircase sounds.
No,
like
I'm familiar with
heard.
Nancy Drew in general, but not any of the specific titles.
But hey, so that's the thing that's happening, and that takes us on to trailers. People, we're on the trailers, and I was very vicious this week. I cut out I had 6 more trailers originally, and I said, you know what? I'm going to be strict. All the boring ones that we're going to have almost nothing to say about, I slashed them out. I was like, no, I'm cutting this right down. So I've got it right down to technically 6, but I do want to mention there was another Deadpool 2 trailer this week as well. But we've already talked about the full trailer and the teaser of that. So
yeah, I've not watched it yet, obviously, but this might be one of those where I watch aside, because usually I don't watch trailer 2s and whatnot. But Deadpool's marketing is pretty unique, that I could see the benefit in maybe watching another trailer.
I did watch it. I watched it purely because I heard there was a jab at the DC movies.
Yeah. And
I had to hear what it was.
Yeah, I saw that, and then I saw the Teen Titans Go people hitting back.
Yeah. Deadpool 2 had another trailer this week. Not really needs one because the movie's out in like a month or so. But Incredibles 2 got a full trailer. We had a teaser before, but this was the full trailer. With plot, fully on display. What's it about? Oh, we're going to get superheroes back in the pop culture. But we don't want you. We want Elastigirl. You can stay here, be a stay-at-home dad, and you can come out and do all the heroics and the PR. It looks good. It looks like it's Incredibles 2.
It does, and I love that.
Yeah.
It looks like exactly what I want. Assuming that we weren't getting a time jump, because obviously part of me did want a time jump. Yeah, no,
I would like the time jump as well, but I'm digging the changing dynamics, and there's not really much of a hint in the trailer as to who the villain is going to ultimately be, I guess.
No, that's true. There's just a lot of we see action sequences.
Yeah.
I mean, my assumption at this point is it's Odenkirk, because he's the one that we see in the trailer doing, offering them the job and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, sure, yeah, the obvious twist, but it's not made clear in the trailer that,
It's not. Well, that's why I assume that, because they're not showing me anything else.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that. I know we got, what's his name that plays Mike in there as well.
Mike from what?
Well, Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad.
Okay. Right, Jonathan Banks, sure.
There we go, thank you.
I was like, Mike, there's lots of Mikes and things, Connor.
I know, but seeing as I just mentioned Odenkirk, I thought the connection was there.
Oh, aye. Make Herman Trout, if you wanted to say that instead. It looks good. It looks fine. It looks like it's more Incredibles. It looks like it's not skipped a beat in the 14 years it's taken to get a sequel.
The animation looks absolutely gorgeous. There's a sequence where she's riding the bike and she's jumping over buildings and stuff with it, and the lighting is just fantastic.
Yeah, I think what's funny about it is that it looks good, but I do have to say that there is this odd, weird feeling to it where it's like, yeah, it looks exactly like it's like you almost expect after 14 years there'd be some sort of evolution, and instead it just looks like no, it's literally just feels like more Incredibles.
Interestingly, Brad Bird was talking about that this week, saying how when he did the first Incredibles movie, there wasn't a superhero boom at that point. That was before all that stuff. There was the odd movie here or there, but it wasn't like we've got now. So it kind of felt fresh. And he said, a big challenge was doing it today with all the superhero movies that we've got. I mean, just look how many we've got this year.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Trying to make it stand out. So as much as that's not really necessarily coming across in the trailer, I'll be really intrigued to see what makes it feel fresh when I go and watch it.
No, that's fair. So moving on, we got a trailer for The Equalizer 2, which is a weird one to talk about because I didn't see the first one, but it was a notable enough trailer this week that was getting reported and whatnot. It felt worth having a look at. Plot is that Denzel Washington plays this assassin dude who's trying to live a normal life, and he's kind of semi-retired, but then one of his oldest friends is killed, and it's a revenge movie of him hunting down all the bad people who did such horrible deeds. I like Denzel Washington, and he's good in this type of role. I happen to quite enjoy Man on Fire, which was a Tony Scott movie he did. Man, that's 14 years old now too. Man, I feel like 2004 doesn't feel that long ago, and yet somehow.
No, I feel that about the whole of the mid 2000s. Yeah. Like even like, obviously we're talking about Iron Man. It's like that's a decade ago.
Yeah, it's 10 years old.
I'm like, when did that happen?
I know, it's just weird. They oddly make it feel like time has passed really quickly.
Yeah.
So.
It's not a nice feeling, is it?
What can one do? Yeah, I know. I'm just glad I don't have to interact with kids too often, because I feel like you'd feel really old when they don't know what certain things are, or they, like...
Yeah, it's bad enough when you talk to someone around my age who's vaguely unfamiliar with like cassette tapes. I'm like, okay, you're only like a year or two younger than me. How?
I don't know when I saw this on, like, I saw someone say that someone who was like a kid saw a floppy disk and said, "Oh, there's a 3D printout of the save icon."
Yeah.
Dear. Anyway, so Equalizer 2, it looks like a fine action movie. Nothing notable. It looks like one of those action movies. I mean, obviously it's coming out during the summer, but it looks like one of those action movies that could come out in like January, and it would fit there.
It does. It doesn't look like anything special. It looks like, I mean, sure, could be fun enough. Yeah. I've got no reason to say why not. Nothing bad about it. Yeah. But nothing that makes it stand out.
Doesn't look like a standout, absolutely. And that's kind of why I didn't see the first one, because it also didn't look like a standout. I wouldn't be opposed to watching it.
No, I feel like I could throw this on and just in the background and get some enjoyment out of it. But I don't feel the need to sit down and watch it.
Yeah, it's not a theatre trip movie by any means.
No.
All right, next up we got a trailer for Hotel Artemis, and do you know what I'm liking actually? We're at a point now where we've been doing this news show for a couple of months, that we're starting to get trailers for movies that we spoke about in the news like 2-3 months ago.
And now we're getting a trailer.
Yeah. Because I remembered this one quite vividly. This is the Jodie Foster. It's this hotel for like criminals to go to, but there's a bunch of rules. You can't bring in weapons. You can't do this. You can't do that. And in fact, I remember debating with you when we got the news of this, because I said, "Oh, it sounds like it's all set in one night because they're trying to like seek refuge in this place and they're getting attacked." Basically, I never said this at the time, I don't think, but watching the trailer, I'm like, this is basically an Assault on Precinct 13 movie. And that is what it is. It's like, that these criminals come by, but they happen to steal a pen that had like diamonds in it. So now these bigger, badder criminals are coming after them.
Yeah.
And you got a hell of a cast. You got Batista's in there, Charlie Day.
Joe, it's funny. You say, "Oh yeah, we spoke about this one." Yeah. I didn't remember that we'd spoke about it until it got to Charlie Day. I was like, "Oh, I remember this one now."
Yeah, because of the cast being so insane, and Sterling K. Brown's one of the main characters, and whole hell of a cast, hell of a cast. Sophia Boutella rounding it out as well. So, as for how the movie looks, I still like the concept of the movie, and I think the movie looks like it could be really good. But at the same time, the trailer doesn't necessarily sell me that it will be definitely good, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have the style that I expect it to with that concept.
But at the same time, it's a very quick cut trailer. This could actually be a really nicely paced action movie.
Goldblum as well. That's who's in it.
There you go. He's the villain. He's the guy coming for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Just we're talking about a stacked cast.
Yeah. So no, I'm intrigued by this. This is one that I'd probably try and talk Matt into seeing so we could review it when it comes out potentially.
Tell him Goldblum's in it.
Yeah,
he won't have a problem.
I think he likes Charlie Day as well.
Yeah. Zachary Quinto's in there too. I'm just.
There you go.
Obviously, as I said before, I play the trailers just off on the side, and it's at the bit where it's rattling off all the names.
Yeah, big cast. Fun concept. I mean, obviously, like I say, it reminds me of Assault on Precinct 13, a movie that I like a lot. I'm talking about the original John Carpenter movie. Not that I've seen the remake. The remake may be fine, but I never saw that. I'm talking about the classic original.
Obviously.
A movie that surprised me in the first 10 minutes, and I started laughing because I did not expect it to do something really dark, and it did. Because it was the 70s and you could do really dark shit in the opening 10 minutes of your movie, set up the plot.
Yeah, I miss those times.
Oh, dear. But anyway, so that is Hotel Artemis. It looks like it could be fun, even though the trailer doesn't necessarily fill me with the exact confidence that it will be.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be like, oh, amazing. I don't think this is going to be the next John Wick.
Yeah.
But I might have a fun time with it.
Speaking of movies we spoke about in the news, and then we'll get a trailer for it. It was probably the only reason why I put this in here, because it's not actually that interesting once you watch the trailer. But we talked about a movie called Puzzle, with Kelly MacDonald, and she's this housewife who starts puzzling. And I remember the description mentioned she gets into like professional
competitive puzzling. And
that'll probably still be part of the plot. That'll probably be something that she's sort of training for, but it's definitely not the focus of the trailer, and probably not the focus of the movie overall.
No, that's like the first 30 seconds is, hey, I'm pretty good at these puzzles. Oh, there's a sign. Someone looking for a competitive puzzle partner. Go on then.
It's more about her falling in love with this other guy who does puzzles.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the movie. And then Roy from The Office, who's the husband, gets really upset about it. And he's upset that she's doing puzzles and not making his dinner for him getting home at work.
Still Roy then.
Do you know, I hate the phrase I slave away all day at work and dinner on the table. It's one of those like little tropes that like I'll just rephrase it, say it a different way. Obviously, you have these asshole husband characters, but just phrase it a different way.
Do you know what? I let it slide because I think it's so just in the vernacular that people say it because that's what they hear. So people have heard that said so often now, so that's what they say.
Oh no, I do. I'm not disputing why they say it. I'm just sick of hearing it anyway. If that makes sense. It's not so much that it feels unreal, it's just I'm sick of hearing it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it looks like a romance movie where she like realizes her husband's an asshole and she's finding like a passion for it. She's been this housewife who's been stuck doing the same routine, stuck just being the housewife, and she finds something she's passionate for. He actively tries to stop her from doing it, whereas this other guy encourages her to follow her passion, her dreams, and it's it's a midlife crisis movie essentially.
Yeah, I'm definitely never going to watch this though.
Yeah, probably not. But I mean, it doesn't look bad. It looks fine for what it is.
Yeah, but no, not for me.
Next up, we had a trailer for In Darkness, which is what's her face from Game of Thrones and The Forest. Natalie Dormer.
Natalie Dormer, yeah.
Took me a second.
I was waiting to see if you'd get it or not.
Took me a second. Who's an actress I like. I mean, let's be honest, I think she's attractive, right? Because I'm trying to think of actually something that I like her in as an actor, and I can't think of one.
What about the Hunger Games stuff?
Yeah, she's fine in that, but she's not really a big part. She's not...
Yeah, to be fair, the problem for you is obviously her defining role is Game of Thrones.
Which I just don't like, yeah.
Yeah, so you never even got to her character, right?
Right. So I want to like her, because I'm like, oh, she's got that kind of smirk to her. There's like, oh, I could...
She does have a great smirk.
And she keeps being in these shitty horror movies. I mean, this is more of a shitty thriller, but it looks bad. I'm like, why do you keep being in this shit?
I know. And you know the worst part is, I know she's got talent. Like,
yeah, she seems like she does, but she keeps being in shit. She's in The Forest, that was garbage, and then this just looks bad. She plays a blind woman, and this woman who's like involved with all these assassins and organised crime or whatever hides something on her. So it's about a blind woman who's constantly being attacked by assassins.
Yeah.
Which sounds like it could be a great comedy, actually, if they went that route, but it's not. It takes itself super seriously.
It does. It does. It's like I like the premise, but the execution just no, it suffers.
It looks bland. It looks generic. It looks like the sort of thing that will just be,
It is
out and forgotten immediately.
Yeah. Sorry, obviously, on her, I was watching through the Marvel movies. I've been speaking of the last few weeks, and I forgot that she was in the first Captain America movie, and she just pops up. I'm like,
yeah, it's a really small
here.
role. This was before she was like a name.
Yeah. She's just, I'm here to seduce you for 30 seconds and get you in trouble.
So
it was the same with what's her name from Doctor Who? That was not the most recent companion before that. Jenna Coleman. That's her name.
What was she in?
She was in Captain America as well.
Oh, was she? Okay.
Yeah, she was just there in one scene. Like, oh, hello, you're here. It's weird.
I think they get small roles before they get the big break.
They do, but you obviously when you first watch it at the time you don't recognise them. It's only when you go back it's like, oh, it's that person.
It's like Evangeline Lilly. She's in a scene in Freddy vs. Jason. She's just in a crowd at the high school. Because she's probably just young enough she could play a high school student, just at least by Hollywood standards.
Yeah.
Because this was maybe like a year before Lost started, but I remember going back and watching that and not knowing she was there, and it's like she's just in the crowd. I'm like, was that Evangeline Lilly? And I went back and I'm like, it is. Well, Kate from Lost is just standing there in the crowd in the background. What the hell? But it happens.
It does.
So that takes us on to our last trailer for the week, which is called Director's Cut, and sometimes I like to end the trailers with either a funny trailer or a weird trailer or something a bit different.
This is definitely unique.
It's definitely a bit different. This is a movie about someone who is obsessed with this film and this actress who's in the film, and decides that he's not happy because he gets the password to hack into the server that has all the dailies, the footage, and he watches it. He's not happy, so he kidnaps the actress and forces her to react in his own versions of the scenes in front of a crappy green screen. And it has this really weird look to it where... What are you looking at me funny for?
No, I'm just
Yeah,
keep going.
You're looking over at the trailer, aren't you? You're just watching.
I'm just in the corner of my eye. I'm just like, what is this?
He's very eccentric. I can't remember the actor's name who's in it, but I've seen him in all stuff before. He's and it's like, so the trailer, it starts kind of weird where it's like you see him and it's like it looks very low budget because it's all very kind of like, this is almost found footage looking.
Yeah, it's very very faux documentary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very just sort of natural lighting kind of, and I'm sure it isn't. I'm sure that just they actually are lighting it, but it has that look to it. But then by the time you get to the second, because I wasn't really feeling it the first half, but by the time you get to the second half and you see her being forced to act in all these like new scenes that he wants to edit into the movie, and he's the hero, and you see him like editing himself over the main actor, and like one of the scenes, and they're in this.
It's just surreal, isn't it?
It's a very surreal movie. It's definitely more of a black comedy than it is anything else.
Yeah, because this is one of those trailers that has all the review quotes pop up, and they're all talking about how it's just darkly hilarious.
So, on the radar. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know if this is actually going to be a good movie, but it's definitely something I want to see just for the experience of what it is. Honestly,
I think the actor seems like he's great in the role, but I almost wonder, would Tommy Wiseau have been a better pick? Is it too on in character for him?
It's too on brand, isn't it?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It's a unique trailer. I have obviously all the links to the trailers are in the description, but I highly recommend checking this one out because it is so weird and different.
Yeah, I've honestly never seen a trailer like it. There's when it gets to him overlaying things, there's a car chase. It's just them just really badly just cut out. There's a sex scene. There's just them sat on a bench. Yeah,
and there's one the sex scenes where he's just put himself on top of the actor that was in the scene originally.
Yeah.
Because he's doing his director's cut of whatever this movie is,
and it pops up with like Microsoft Paint drawings of the titles.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, it's interesting. So that does lead us to picking our favorite trailer of the week. I think it has to be the director's cut. That's the one I'll remember from this week.
It's definitely not the film I'm excited for most.
Oh, that's sure, but the best trailer.
It's definitely the most unique, interesting trailer out there.
Yeah, no, I'm going with director's cut.
Yeah, no question about it.
In terms of what I'm most excited about, There's probably Incredibles 2. I don't
It's
think
easily
yeah.
incredible. So it's probably, that is honestly my most anticipated movie of the year.
I don't know what mine is. I mean, maybe Halloween get a poster this week. The official. We don't usually talk about posters getting released, but
Well, it's Halloween, so you want to
there's
talk
a
about
Halloween poster. It's just a glimpse of the Michael Myers, the Shape mask.
yeah.
Which, by the way, I appreciated actually when John Carpenter tweeted it out. He said the Shape returns. Everyone else just calls him Michael Myers, but I appreciate the original intent in that first film is that once that mask is on, he is the Shape. He is not Michael Myers anymore. So I like that. But hey.
Yeah. That's what, mid-October?
Yeah, so 19th, I think. A week before Halloween, basically, so it's out for Halloween weekend.
Obviously.
So that will take us back on to the regular general movie news, to make it sort of as boring as possible. Not the exciting movie news, just the regular, normal, plain...
The stuff that gets, shoved to part 2.
First up, so David Leitch, who's directing Deadpool 2, funnily enough, his next project is he's signed on. He's signed on to do The Division, which is Ubisoft's video game adaptation, which I had completely forgotten was going to star Jake Gyllenhaal and Jessica Chastain. Talk about, I mean, from the fact that it's based on a video game, I assume bad, and then you add in those two cast members, and it's like, well,
I'm conflicted now.
Would they really sign on if this was going to be garbage? I don't know. It's weird.
Ask anyone who's ever been in a video game movie.
But he's also in line to work on the Fast and the Furious spin-off with The Rock and Jason Statham, which will be shooting first. That's getting ready to go later this year. The Division will start working that in 2019. So he's a busy man. He's getting work.
Yes, I mean, I don't know what he's done already before Deadpool 2, but this will be the test for a lot of people, I'm sure, as to how this performs and if it stacks up. Yeah,
Division's a video game came out a few years ago, a big multiplayer game. Everyone's in New York. It's kind of a post-apocalyptic game. The story's set in the near future where a pandemic virus is spreading via paper money on Black Friday, decimating New York City and killing millions. By Christmas, what's left of society has descended into chaos. A group of civilians trained to operate in catastrophic times is activated in an attempt to save who and what remains. So,
give it a couple of years and this will be completely unfeasible. Because everyone's going cashless, still contactless cards and phones.
That's a fair point. But Joe, it's funny because the first couple trailers for this were fantastic. The game, I mean, then they showed too much of it, and then the game itself was just kind of a generic.
Sure. Game. Interestingly, this is one of the prime examples of what I was talking about earlier. With they show it too early.
They did. But it did have good showings for a while, and then they kept showing more things, and then the game just ended up not being more beyond shoot things, get more loot that has slightly higher numbers, repeat and keep
which
going.
Is fine, but whatever. And I'm surprised this is still happening, given that no one's talking about this game anymore.
No, but I imagine the Division 2 is going to be a thing, so this might even end up timing up with...
almost certainly going to be a thing, but, I mean, who cares? At least a lot of the other, not all of them, but a lot of the video game adaptations, or at least, franchises, by the time they're adaptations.
Yeah, but that's the thing, though. Ubisoft's developing its own movies, so that doesn't matter to them.
They do whatever the hell they want.
They want to make Division almost have more cred by saying, hey, there's a movie as well. Therefore, people might come and check out the game because of the movie and vice versa. So, anyway, so that's the thing that's happening. Next up, Universal Pictures, which here was typed as Winiversal Pictures, has acquired a political action thriller called The Hunt.
Sorry, how do you even typo that? W is nowhere near you.
I don't know. What do you want from me? Maybe there's a Winiversal Picture somewhere, but I doubt it. So they got The Hunt, which is going to debut on September 27th this year. 2019. Sorry, not this year. 2019. Just so people aren't excited for this year. This is the movie that is written by Damon Lindelof and Nick Hughes. And directed by Craig Zobel from Z for Zachariah and Compliance. I want to see Compliance, actually. I've heard interesting things, so it's an interesting plot. based on a true story. But the hunt is being kept under wraps. All we know it's a Blumhouse produced thing,
Of course.
but we don't know anything else. Compliance is a story about this guy phoned up a fast food restaurant. I don't know which fast food restaurant, that really matters. And basically convinced the manager that one of his employees, or maybe it was the assistant manager, whoever it was, whoever was in charge, they convinced them that one of the employees was this dangerous criminal, and he was a policeman on the way to question them, so they had to be detained. But over the course of this true story, basically made the person submit this person to various amounts of abuse, or not outright torture.
I remember hearing about this one.
So I imagine it's probably started off quite believable, lock her in a room so she can't get away and things like that, and then it maybe escalated to things where the guy should have probably been like, hey, maybe
shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, this person, he's not proved who he is, but so on. But it was an interesting concept for a story, I thought.
I assume it's all about the movie is all about how people will do kind of what they're told to do if they assume it comes from a position of authority and power.
Hence the title, Compliance.
It's they redid the electric shock test. The one where will people shock people if they're just told to because they're told to, and or will they go, no, this is wrong, and they'll stop doing it. It's like this classic experiment, but they redid it this year, and the results were even more in the favor of if you tell someone to shock them, they're just going to do it.
All right. Next up, Vin Diesel and the H Collective have acquired the rights to the Triple X franchise from Revolution Studios, and they're going to make a fourth one. Diesel's going to reprise his role as Xander Cage, and they're going to start shooting in December this year.
Didn't the third one just come out?
Last January, I think.
Oh, that long.
DJ Caruso, who directed the last one, is coming back to direct. Interestingly, this is another one where domestically it's been doing very badly, but the international is doing enough to keep it going.
All right, who can we blame for this one?
Honestly, I saw the first one when it came out and hated it even at the time when I was quite young. And I had no interest in seeing the second one. I had no interest in seeing the third one. Guess what? I have no interest in seeing the fourth one. So...
Who does?
I don't know. I like Vin Diesel well enough. He's not the greatest actor in the world by any means, but he's got a bit of a presence. I like the Riddick movies.
Do you know what my problem with Vin Diesel is? He's got a presence, but he's got no charisma.
Which is fine in the right role.
It is, but I feel like it holds him back for the things that he tries to do.
Next up, Paramount has made a deal with F. Gary Gray, who, funnily enough, did the last Fast and the Furious movie. But he's going to direct Mask, which is a Hasbro property. A live-action film. It'll be built on the 80s Kenner action figures and animated series. Mask is an acronym for Mobile Armored Strike Command. Yes, command with a K. Yes, before anyone jumps in.
I was going to ask, are they spelling mask with a C or?
A task force led by Matt Tracker, whose goal is to take out the criminal organisation known as Venom. The film will be produced by Hasbro and Gray, and they're quickly looking for a writer because they want to get a franchise going. Apparently, they want to hatch a contemporary subculture movie with a youth empowerment angle. So, good.
Do you know what's really amusing to me about this? Obviously, this was created in did you say the 80s? The Mask in general, and so they changed the command to I just spelled command with a K. We want the acronym to work. These days, they'd go do it with a C. People can Google it easier if you put Mask.
That's true. Yeah, they probably would. That's a good point. But no, so yeah, we know Hasbro wants to try and turn all their stuff into franchises and movies. So
yeah, I'm not familiar with this one though.
Nor am I. Not at all. I mean, it sounds fine enough. Sounds like it could be entertaining if they give it the right treatment.
Sure. Yeah.
But
I feel like all these Hasbro, they have to just be kind of fun and goofy, right? They can't take them seriously.
Yeah, probably. It depends. If someone writes a good script that does kind of incorporate it into a serious story, then sure. I mean, I have no attachment to most of them, so not necessarily. Be creative. Do wacky things. Go for it. Next up, Paramount Pictures is close to finalising a deal to distribute and finance Rocketman, which is a biopic of Elton John, with Taron Egerton going to play the role and sing all the songs. This is a passion project for him. He's been wanting to do it. Of course, he worked with them on the second Kingsman movie. Matthew Vaughn is producing the movie. Dexter Fletcher is going to direct it. So it's a whole thing.
I'm down. I have no idea what Egerton's like for singing, but...
well, that's the thing. One of the things it says here is apparently people who have heard him sing some of Elton John's hits have said A, he's good as a singer, but B, the similarities in the voice and how he's hitting the notes and is impressive. So
I'll have to just take their word at it for now and hope that this comes goes through and we actually see this and I can judge it for myself.
I'm not a big biopic guy, but yeah, whatever. I appreciate.
I'm not inherently, but I mean,
I appreciate his catalogue lends the good title of Rocketman.
It does, doesn't it?
I feel like sometimes they have to struggle to think of a title for some of these biopics, but a good one that makes sense. Next up, Kyle Newacheck is attached to direct an action comedy called Ice Cold Heart for Lionsgate. It's a story written by Josh Kasdan and Eric Lord. It's about an ambitious detective from the early 1990s who is cryogenically frozen by a powerful drug dealer after a drug bust that went upside down. The detective thaws out 22 years later and seeks out revenge. Because he was frozen, he remains young, while his son, who is now a cop in his old unit, is close to the same age.
Sorry, you sure this isn't a Fox TV show?
It sounds like one. It also sounds like it's borrowing a lot from Demolition Man. The difference being here, of course, is that it's the criminal who freezes the cop, and there's no run into his kids thing in Demolition Man. But it definitely made me think of it. Cop from the 90s that's frozen and comes to the future. That's very much the 90s, very much Demolition Man. Of course, when Demolition Man done it, it was made in the 90s and it was imagining the future, whereas this sounds like it's going to be to have the flashback in the 90s so that it comes to present day. I think that's kind of amusing to me. But
it is, but it's ultimately much less interesting. Like, if you tell me, like, oh, okay, he was frozen in the 90s, but he was frozen for 50 years instead of 20 years, I'm way more into it.
How do you use the 3 seashells? Everything's Taco Bell. What do you want? Have you seen Demolition Man? Are these references falling flat?
No, I've seen that one.
Okay, good. Murder, Death, Kill. You really licked his ass. I like Demolition Man, guys. It's a fun movie. What do you want from me?
I haven't seen it in about 15 years, admittedly. I've seen it.
It's bad, but it's fun. Well, bad's maybe harsh. It's not a good movie, but it knows what it is. It's a B movie.
It's just something to throw on and have fun with.
So it's called Ice Cold Heart. So there you go. Next up, MGM is close to the deal for James Gray to direct I Am Pilgrim. It's an adaptation of the espionage novel trilogy by Terry Hayes. Hayes worked on a bunch of stuff. Dead Cam, Payback, From Hell, and he's adapting it himself because he's obviously adapted other things as well for the screen. The intention is for this to be the next film after Ad Astra, the sci-fi epic he just finished with Brad Pitt for New Regency and Fox. That's interesting. Wasn't aware of that.
No.
Yeah. Pilgrim is a code name for a man who doesn't exist. The adopted son of a wealthy American family, he once headed a secret US espionage unit. Now in anonymous retirement, he is called upon to lend his expertise to an unusual investigation, but ultimately is caught in a race against time to save America from oblivion.
I have absolutely no interest in this.
That's fair. Just sounds like a spy thing.
Yeah, but it's not even the retired spy thing as well. I'm like, I don't know. I've seen it done. It has to be really impressive to
There's
go,
no
yeah,
hook. There's nothing in there that's like, this is why it's different from other spy things.
Right, exactly.
This is what makes it the thing you want to see.
And I like spy things, but you still got to give me something.
Anyway, next up, Paramount has won the movie rights to Aru Shah and the End of Time. It is a young adult novel by Roshani Chokshi, and debuts this Sunday in the number 2 slot in New York Times Best. So it just came out. It literally just came out and hit number 2.
It's not bad.
And the bestseller list for young readers. That's an important caveat. Not just the bestsellers list in general.
No, but to be fair, I think that given the market, I think that's a still respectable.
Oh, sure, it's not bad, but I think it's worth
So
pointing out. It's not just
it
number
is.
2 overall.
No, but that's a flooded market as it is, young
So
readers.
yeah, so they're seeing the Paramount's seeing the potential for a franchise that is a cross between The Wizard of Oz and Coco with a touch of Night at the Museum.
I'm kind of down for this. I like all of those things to varying degrees. Like, Night at the Museum was the less interesting part of that.
Uh,
But
Paramount apparently just beat out Netflix. They were the ones that were going neck and neck for this. So yeah, the titular character is a 12-year-old girl of Indian descent who lives at the annex of the Museum of Ancient Indian Arts and Culture and is known to lie to her classmates at a rich Atlanta private day school to get them to view her traditional wardrobe as something exotic and not freaky. While most of her boasts are flat-out fibs, the one that isn't and the one that's the most intriguing to the classmates, Aru tells them she owns a cursed lamp that can end the world. Despite her mum's warnings of lighting the lamp of Bharata in the Hall of the Gods, when several classmates come to her doorstep to dare her to light the lamp, the young girl cannot help herself. Out comes the Sleeper, a figure also known as the Lord of Destruction, who is determined to end the world unless the youth can stop him. The novel brings the play the largely untapped world of Hindu mythology and its figures who are deployed to help the young heroine on a journey to replete and with contemporary pop culture references and the exploration of karma and reincarnation. The youth becomes proficient with the bow and arrow as well. That last line really makes me laugh because it's like all this stuff that's really unique that you've not seen in a young adult movie before, and then you get to the end and the youth becomes good with a bow and arrow.
yeah,
I'm like,
pretty
oh,
much.
so there's some Hunger Games stuff in there too, sure.
Yeah. Got to have some Hunger Games in there now.
Got to have some Katniss references. I love it because nothing has anything to do with a bow and arrow, and then just at the end, oh, and she's also good with the bow and arrow.
Pretty much. I do quite like the sound of it though. It sounds kind of fun. I'm down for watching this.
It sounds fine to me. Honestly, the word young and adult next to each other inherently make me assume I won't like it. But
No, I agree. This sounds much younger than a lot of the younger, like the young adult stuff now. I feel like, oh, it's edgy teenager, right? This feels more, like the 10 to 13 rather than
12-year-olds is specified.
Right. But I mean, just as specific as the audience, that feels the age range rather than the young adult, which kind of is like that 13 to 17 sort of range.
Yeah. I think it's funny that we got this and then the Nancy Drew in the same news story. We got some, sort of young, pre-teen, early teen girl, like heroes / detectives, solving problems.
I'm all for it.
Saving things. Next up, we're on the horror section. So that's the end of the general news. We're into the horror movie section. Not a whole lot this week, but there's a couple of things. First up would be the horror section without Blumhouse. They have acquired the rights to the New York Magazine article Worst Roommate Ever. It's worth mentioning this is actually something they're developing both in terms of movie and TV at the same time, which is a first for Blumhouse. However, the TV project is a docu-series, so this is definitely, for our news purposes, it falls more into the movie side of things, because that's the one that we're more likely to actually look at later on. So, this is based on a New York Magazine article called Worst Roommate Ever, which is about a serial squatter and murderer in what will be the first project developed for both film and TV. And they've got Chris Morgan from the Fast and Furious franchise to develop the feature. This was about someone who I've unfortunately somehow managed to not copy and paste in the actual descriptive paragraph, but I remember it well enough because it was unique. Basically,
it sounds pretty unique, to be fair.
It's a true story of someone who kind of, under a false name, got into someone's house, and then because they happen to be really have an expertise on tenant laws, managed to kind of squat for a long time and tormented the owner of the house, and kicked in the door, but then knew the rules about leaving and stuff, and intimidated her into sort of sticking around. It
sounds amazingly atrocious.
Yeah, obviously awful for the actual event that happened,
but a fantastic story.
So, that's the thing. Definitely, I feel like it's going to be more of a horror movie.
Yeah, it'll be like, oh my god, we can't get rid of this guy.
Yeah, so that's the thing. And then finally, in the horror section, yes, finally being the second thing, Jason Clarke, who's in Chappaquiddick right now. He was in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. He was unfortunately in Winchester earlier this year. He is in talks to star in the remake of Pet Sematary from Paramount, which is obviously based on a Stephen King book. And yeah, it's already got a release date of April 19th, 2019, so they've got a year to knock this out, which sounds reasonable.
It means I've got a year to read the book. It's been sat on my shelf for about 3 years, and I've not touched it.
Yeah, the original.
Tim would be ashamed of me, I'm sure.
I've seen the original movie. It's okay. I don't think it's aged particularly well.
I've not seen it, but
to me, it's one of those just kind of middle of the road Stephen King adaptations that aren't particularly good. Aren't terrible, but aren't particularly good either. It's just kind of in the middle.
That's fair. I mean, that's like the majority of his adaptations, right?
Yeah. Obviously, a couple of standouts, but that's the thing. Interestingly, the best one is probably The Shining, which is the one that he hates, but it's just a damn good movie. So
it is. What can you do?
Hey, so that's the news. That is the news, which leads us on to what we've been watching, if indeed we have been watching anything that's not for review purposes. And it's kind of unlikely this week because we actually didn't even record an Influx this week because we were too busy with TV stuff. Me and Tim didn't do a Screams this week, so it was a late movie week for the channel as well. So, so short answer is no. I did not watch anything that wasn't for review purposes.
I got through a couple more of the Marvel movies.
And is that it? Is that all you've got?
Yeah, okay. Basically. I mean, this is a case of, hey, it's coming out next week. Should probably go through these, right? And
which ones did you watch this week?
I watched Age of Ultron.
Okay.
Still pretty good. I think I like it. I think this is only the second time I've seen it. I like it less than I did the first time in cinema.
I think there's faults. I think there's some studio interference to make it more packed than it should be. But I think Whedon actually, it's a testament to his skills that it's as coherent as it is, given all the stuff that's going on.
Yeah, it's still pretty damn good. Don't get me wrong. As far as Marvel movies go, it's in the upper tier. I think it's interesting the Thor subplot, which at the time I hated because it just drags the movie down. It goes nowhere. It plays better now after Ragnarok because that's kind of that's what it was setting up, and in context I'm like, all right, it still doesn't really work in the movie, but at least I could see it.
It was definitely the weakest part, and it was the stuff the studio forced in that Whedon didn't want.
It is, yeah.
So
like, don't get me wrong, it still is, but at least now when I've seen where it's gone, I'm like, okay, as part of an overall thing, it's less offensive, but as just in the movie, it's still pretty just kind of pointless and irrelevant. But yeah, that's definitely the worst part. And then I watched Ant-Man as well, which is perfectly fine. I don't love it.
I think it's enjoyable for the enjoyable elements, which is most of the cast and the comedy and whatnot.
Yeah.
So some of the Ant-Man effects specifically. The villain is terrible.
I remembered him even by Marvel standards being pretty bad, and I was paying particular attention. He doesn't even have a reason to be even like the worst of the Marvel villains.
I said that at the time. He has no motivation. He just is.
Like, I don't get it. Like even the worst of them. Like you go back to the dude in Iron Man 1. Sure, he wants the company for himself. He wants Tony out of the picture. What's his name from Guardians? Sure, he's got a whole rivalry with this the Speed. He wants to conquer and whatever.
To be fair with Iron Man 1, he wasn't really going to be a villain. He was happy just doing everything behind his back. It was only because Tony kept.
Yeah, he was gonna kill Tony, right? That was the whole thing, and then it's like, well, okay, you survived. Well, shit.
Sure, yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's been a while.
that was the whole thing. He set up him going.
That's right. You're right. Yeah, he actually tried to kill him. Yeah, fair point. Fair point.
But it was like, okay, fine. At least, but I get the motivation. It's thin. Don't get me wrong, but at least there's something there. This guy, he's like, I discovered this, and hey, wouldn't it be cool if we use this for evil purposes?
He literally kills someone in a bathroom at one point, and I just went, oh, he's a killer already? Okay. I thought maybe it'll be like a sort of gradual decline into evil, or we'll find out why he's been doing this. But no, he just randomly kills a dude in the bathroom, and I'm like, oh, he's this evil. Okay.
Yeah, the only reason he kills that guy is because the guy's like, hey, are you sure we should be doing this? This feels kind of sketchy. Oh, you're dead. It's like, right, okay. I mean,
Yeah.
but the fun stuff is fun. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, Paul Rudd's fantastic. But yeah, I think it's kind of overrated as a Marvel movie. Like, some people seem to love it, and I don't know. I think it's pretty good, but
Ah,
it's just, whatever.
they love Michael Pena, his cousin character.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, he's pretty good.
They love him. They love him in his stories. Um, but hey, so that is I guess that's that. I guess all that's left. Like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of movie content that went up this week. Westworld, the original movie, went up for the public Influx last Friday. Patrons got Predator 2 for Influx just today at the time of recording, so the public will get that next week. And yeah, so yeah, it's a light week or two for the movies because of the busy schedule.
Yeah, we'll try and get back into the swing of it soon.
Yeah, so but hey, so that's basically it. Obviously, the next Gigawatts will be Infinity War after next weekend,
Yeah.
and yeah. So and we've got stuff cooking. And me and Tim have got streams planned, so there's stuff coming next week and the week after. So
Here's happening. And just remember, this is the week where we talked about Blumhouse doing a superhero movie. Just, just for context. I just feel like that needs to be reinforced.
let us know what you think of any of the news that came up this week in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you're a patron, make sure you go and vote in all the voting for this month for the Influx, the streams, and the Overload, and maybe put a movie into the vault, which is like the user submitted list of movies that our patrons can submit to. If you want to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. There's a link in the description. Even $1 is more than we'd make from you as a viewer for ads for like the whole month. So if you want to,
even if you watch pretty much everything, probably.
yeah. So go have a look at that, and that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching movies, guys. We'll see you next time.